Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast. Every Tuesday on the pod, we answer your tricky questions. And today we've got one about a child who's anxious, doesn't like a parents being around because parents aren't cool. There's parenting on the same page. There's a little bit of everything in today's tricky question, and we can't wait to answer that question next. Stay with us. Hello, welcome to the Happy Families podcast, where you get real parenting solutions every single day. This is Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. We're excited to answer another listener question today. If you have a tricky question, just jump online to happyfamilies.com.au. Go to our super simple system where you press the record button and start talking. Let us know what's on your mind, and we'll do our very best to answer questions about family, relationships, well-being, screens, discipline, pocket money, bedtime, fussy eating. It's a long list, and anything that we haven't thought of, you can chuck it at us as well. Also, if you don't want to use the website, send us a voice note to podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. Here is today's tricky question from Loretta.
Hi, I was wondering if you could speak about the difference between big emotions, particularly around anxiety, poor behaviour, particularly around defiance and disobedience, and developing autonomy in an environment where a 10-year-old is becoming much more socially aware and parents are no longer cool, and how each of those are managed. For example, with the big emotions, our daughter will often be quite anxious about how she looks, her hair, or what she's wearing, and as a consequence, she might be almost ready to walk out the door and then just can't go. So the developing autonomy and social awareness is more around events such as sporting events or school assemblies, where I have always asked her whether she wants me to come, and if I do come, how does she want that to go? Does she want me to sit at the back and pretend I'm not there, or can I sit in the front row and can I wave to her? Can I go and say hi and give her a hug? How does she want to play that out? My husband doesn't do that so much, and usually when he goes to things, he will just go up to her and he'll want a photo and things, and she'll just think that's cringe worthy. But when she doesn't want him to come there, he will want to discipline her and give a consequence.
Okay, Kylie, so as soon as I hear this conversation, the first thing that I want to highlight is somebody feeling a bit anxious about things, like the way that they look, doesn't mean that they have anxiety. And it's really important that we don't over-stigmatize or go too far with labels here. We've got a 10-year-old girl who is starting to become socially aware and wants to make sure that she's getting the stuff right that matters to her. And as she starts to get a little bit antsy about it, starts to feel a little bit anxious about it, she stops thinking straight, which means that she responds with defiance. And then there's this question of, well, how much autonomy do we give our child? A lot of parents think that autonomy is freedom. It's not the same thing. Freedom is carte blanche, do what you want. Autonomy is, let's work out what matters most here so that you can make choiceful decisions and act in a way that you can identify as valuable and right for the situation. That's a lot that I've just said there. But really, what I'm getting out of much of this conversation is this is a discussion about emotion regulation for a 10-year-old, which is starting to get a lot better than it has been, but there's still some growth there for 10-year-olds. That's developmentally normal. I think also working out a problem-solving solution with your daughter when things are challenging, whether it's at school or whether it's the other stuff that was discussed, or Loretta being on the same page as a husband. So for me, they're the central themes that came out of that question.
Let's start with same-page parenting, because I think that unless we can actually get this part right, then the other part's really tricky to navigate.
When parents are aligned, it's just better leadership. Like the kids say, oh, okay, this is the way I'm supposed to be going. You and I had an incident just recently where I made a call. You didn't necessarily agree with me, but you also knew that if we weren't aligned, that it wasn't going to work out well. And therefore, you got behind me. You backed me, and that made a difference. So getting on the same page is going to be essential here.
And when I listen to what's going on, neither parent is nailing this right now. I think that there is some middle ground that could be found if both parties were willing to explore what that might look like.
Parenting just tests you so much.
It tests you, stretches you.
Constantly. All right. So when it comes to getting on the same page as your partner, we've got a formula that we have talked about a lot on the podcast. We'll keep it brief, but it's tried and true, and lots of families have worked with it and found that it's made a massive difference. It's where you sit down as a couple and say, what's working and what isn't, and what should we work on together? There's no finger pointing when you say what's not working. It's not like, well, you keep on losing your patience and blah, blah, blah. What you say instead is, well, when these big emotions come out of our daughter, it's hard for both of us to really regulate ourselves well, and that seems to be creating even bigger challenges. So what's the way forward? How can we step into that with more intention together? How can we support each other to be more intentional around our daughter's emotional dysregulation? That's a much more productive conversation than me saying, well, Kylie, what's working is I'm awesome, and what's not working is you're getting it wrong. And what needs fixing? You. That's unproductive, right? Nobody likes those kinds of conversations.
But the reality is, whenever there's instability in the way we come together, we actually, in part, create some of the anxiety our child feels because they're experiencing the world through two different people.
So, like I said, it's about parental leadership. Can we be aligned? Can we work on this together? Weekly discussions, sometimes even more frequently. Go for a walk once the kids are in bed, walk the dog if you've got one, and just say, hey, can we do a quick check-in? How did you think today went? Here's what I'm seeing. What do you think? Am I right or am I wrong? Having that relational humility where you say, my perception's this, but I might be getting this wrong. So I've often said to you, when you did that, it made me feel like this is what was going on for you. Am I getting that right or am I completely misreading this? And you're always much nicer to me when I do that than when I say, I hate it when you blah, right? Like, because there's that humility as in I'm recognizing that my perception feels right for me, but it might not be right. So getting alignment together to me is the number one thing.
And if we can understand the underlying, generally speaking, when as parents we're not getting it right, it's usually an underlying fear. If we can get to the bottom of the underlying fear that is creating the action or the interaction that we're having in our relationships, that makes it easier for us to recognize and see where things are going wrong.
Yeah, and talking about it's kind of the best way to get there.
You need a sounding board.
It's a problem-solving conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an accusational conversation. It's there's a problem to solve here, and we're going to do it better if we work
because
on it
there's
together.
friction on both sides. There's friction when mum goes, but there's also friction when dad goes. It's just different friction.
Oh, with the school assembly. Yeah. All right. Well, after the break, let's talk about this new focus on not having my parents watching me or interacting with me. Dad's not willing to follow the rules. Mum's having the conversations, but it's still feeling awkward. That's next on the pod. We're back. This is the Happy Families podcast. Kylie, here's my take on this challenge of a little girl who doesn't want too much interaction with her parents at school. First off, I just want to congratulate Loretta and her hubby. They're actually doing it. They're showing up. They're going there. It's been years since I've been to a school assembly. I just can't bring myself to do it anymore. It's torture.
So we obviously don't have children at school anymore.
Well,
so
we've got one in grade 11, so it doesn't happen
We're
as
not
often.
dealing with the same things, but the last few years before we pulled them out, I was noticing it more and more. We were one of the only parents showing up to events, and therefore it's actually a rare thing for a parent to show up. And so when your child is the child whose parent is showing up, that's what they see as cringeworthy.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's a lot of individual differences here. Some kids are stoked to see their parents and to show off and say, hey, look what happened on assembly today, and others less so. And there is a developmental aspect to it. Kylie, I want to go back to my definition of masculinity, the thing that I've been talking about so much, and we're going to hear a lot more of it over the next 6 weeks as we get ready for my book to come out. Definition of masculinity, healthy masculinity, is that you help the people around you feel safer and stronger. So as I listen to Loretta's voice note, what I'm hearing is a dad who's really proud of his little girl, and he wants to be a part of the celebration of the goodness that she's bringing into the world. She's doing things well. He's showing up to assembly so he can say, I'm your biggest fan. I love you so much. And I want to get a photo of this moment. I want to celebrate it with you. And I don't actually have a problem with that. What I am challenged by, and clearly Loretta and her daughter are challenged by it as well, is there's a stomping over his daughter's preferences here. And in some ways, it's very, very small. Yeah, it's a tiny little thing. And one day she might look back and say, I'm so glad Dad was there and we got the photos. So I'm open to that interpretation. But I'm also mindful that we're constantly talking to our kids about how their voice matters and how they need to be able to say no and be listened to. This is the whole consent conversation, starting young and then branching out into other areas as they get older. And I'm mindful also of the fact that if this is a girl who is worried about her appearance and has some anxious tendencies, again, I don't think there's any anxiety here, but just doesn't feel comfortable with it, then parents have got to be able to work with that in effective and productive ways.
It's always hard when we get a voice memo. We don't have all the details, but based on what Loretta has shared, the one thing that kind of concerns me is that when we try to problem solve with our children and we give them possible solutions, at times we actually inadvertently plant the seed of what's possible. Mm-hmm. So if my child's anxious and they really don't want me coming along, by me saying, well, I'm coming, but I could do it this way, this way, this way, or this way, what would you prefer? Means that all of a sudden she now has 3 or 4 options that she may not have thought of on her own, and they could possibly be 100 times further down the road than what she actually was thinking. So I love the 3 E's because it gives us an opportunity to collaborate with our children instead of actually giving them the solutions.
Yeah, and when you give solutions, your kids don't endorse them, they don't internalize them, there's no integration, there's no identifying the value in this solution, so therefore they don't buy into it, they just get upset about it. So the 3 E's overcomes that because it's a collaborative problem-solving process where the kids actually have a voice.
And we get to explore with them. So from my perspective as a mum, I want to be there, I want to celebrate. I want to see you. I want you to know that we're here to support you. How do you feel about that? Let your children talk about that and then explain why it's important.
Yeah. Or
get them to explain why it's important the way they feel.
Something as simple as you don't like it, help us to understand why. So it really explore their perspective. What is it that us waving to you or being excited for you, what is it that does to you? What other ways could we show our excitement and support for you in ways that you feel good about? Then we move into that problem-solving discussion.
And then we empower them by coming up with a solution together.
Ideally one that they endorse.
And we had this experience with our eldest. She was quite a good swimmer when she was younger, and we attended a lot of regional and state events with her. And she didn't want me shouting out and screaming her name from the bleachers. And so we had a chat about it and we talked about what would be good. She needed to see me. It calmed her. She knew that I was there for her, but she just wanted it to be not obvious. So we just came up with a little code. And for us, it was literally she would look over to me and I would grab my earlobe and give it a little bit of a wiggle.
Which is what my choir teacher used to do in primary school, to say, sing louder.
Well, for us, it meant I love you.
Yeah.
You got this.
Yeah.
And it was perfect. And so we've got plenty of photos of her standing on a podium, wiggling her ear because she would do it back. It's important for us to respect their desire for autonomy, but I think it's also important that we don't let our children dictate how we show up as parents. As we take a back seat in their lives, I think that it's detrimental.
Okay, Loretta, we really hope that this has been a useful response to your question. Hopefully we got the context right and what we've shared is going to make an impact in your family. Thank you so much for the question. If you have a tricky question for us, shoot it through, email us, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au and send us a voice note. Alternatively, you can go to happyfamilies.com.au, scroll down to the bit where it says record and then just start talking. It's our super simple system at happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. We appreciate the additional support from Mim Hammonds. And if you've got questions or need resources to make your family happier, you'll find answers on our social pages, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families, or at happyfamilies.com.au.